All right, everybody, welcome out to another episode of Windshield Time at Mountainland Supply. I'm Joey. I'm here with Brandon, our CEO, and Spencer Schwartz, our producer, who, as always, has agreed to be quiet in the corner and not interrupt. And he, trust me, Spencer can interrupt. So we're grateful for that commitment.
Oh,
yeah. And
that was beautiful. There it is. There it is.
So today we're going to talk about something that's a little bit of a change over the last few years that we've implemented. As we've talked before, we started implementing EOS a number of years ago. And in EOS, one of the founding things that you do is you change the way you do meetings. Gino Wickman was part of a book that was written called Death by Meeting. And Death by Meeting is an interesting book. It's actually like a fable. So if you guys are interested in reading it, go download a copy or something. But through that book, it talks about how meetings are just mundane. And the meetings that this particular person in the story was going to, just drove him nuts. Because he would go to the meeting, it'd be the same thing over and over again. And if you were part of our company a few years ago, you can identify with that. And then we started this level 10 meeting that we do every week. And this is a plug because you all should be or should very shortly be involved in a level 10 meeting every week. The reason that we have these level 10 meetings is so we can have communication up and down the chain constantly, and that you should never have to wait more than a week to get an answer to your problems. We as an executive team, we meet every Monday at 10 o'clock, and we go for 90 minutes. And the idea between a level 10 meeting is that it is 90 minutes. It is the same time every week. And when you get to 90 minutes, you stop. So if the issue wasn't important or pressing enough to be to the top of your list of issues, you don't talk about it that week. And you get really good at determining whether or not these issues are going to be important enough to discuss that week, or if it's something that, okay, we can wait till next week to talk about it. But for the most part, if we see anything that comes from another department that's been escalated to our meeting, we solve that immediately. That is our priority. So through that whole process, that really created something awesome for us. And it's actually, and I'm not going to speak for Brandon because he'll speak for himself in a second, but I personally look forward to those meetings every week because we get a lot of stuff done.
Now I do. I look forward to those meetings.
It wasn't always that way.
It wasn't. And many of you have heard my story. I mean, there a few years ago, before this even happened, we used to have those types of meetings. And I went to Brent Anderson and I told him, don't even think about inviting me to any more meetings because they're useless. They're pointless.
Yeah, we call them senior leadership meetings.
Oh, my gosh. And it would just be once a month, and you would just talk about the same stupid things time and time again, and it wouldn't get anywhere. So, with the level 10s, one of the cool things that I really like about it is, first of all, you start off and you kind of give a segue. And, for our group, we always give one one personal and one work-related item win for the past week. Mm-hmm. And so, it's really cool to be able to have that. And it takes about 5 minutes, and we just hurry and kind of rip around the room. But, hear what someone did accomplish the work side. But I really like the personal side, too, because then you start hearing about, might be things, Joey, your kids are doing that, a competition where one of your kids took, first place, or, Ben has Brian that wrestles a ton, and we get to hear a lot about Brian, and which I think is always cool to be able to do that. Calvert's usually killing something, so who knows? And then you got, Bruce that sometimes he talks about his football team that's not going to be named Wins or whatever. I don't know. Anyways,
but that or an obsession with an Excel sheet or something like that.
Exactly.
A checklist.
Guys, I cracked this code, and
I have a checklist.
So, anyways, but it's pretty cool to do that. But then we go into, we talk about, okay, here's our metrics that we're going to go over, our key performance indicators,
our
scorecard, and then after that really gives that overview of, okay, where's the company performing, and trying to predict the numbers of what's going to happen here. And we go over those, and anything out of whack, then we put it down. And then the thing that I love most about this is then we go from our to-do list from last week, and we recap it to say, did you get it done? Did you not get it done? And I don't want to hear why you didn't get it done. And I'm not mad that you don't get it done, but we're going to put it as an issue so that we can talk about it. And that's the thing that I think made the huge difference for me, is to be able to go over that, to-do list and hold people accountable. Because a lot of the issues that you have with meetings is why you talk about the same thing is
People
you discuss
get their stuff done.
Yeah, you discuss something, you solve an issue, and you sometimes you're not clear on who's going to take care of that resolution or that solution. And so when we go through that IDS, we always are very specific. Okay, Joey's going to take this or Brandon's going to take this. And then I have 7 days to get that done.
And if you can't, then you need to, that's your opportunity right there, is to tell them, hey, this is not a 1 week.
Exactly.
Well, what can you get done in a week?
Exactly. Or why not? Or I tried to do this and I wasn't able to, and this is why. This is the other resources I need from the company. I might need some help from a different department or whatever. So that for me made a really huge impact. And then we go into that IDS section, identify, discuss, and solve, right? These are the issues. And I love too that as you go through that, you vote on them. We vote and say, okay, what's most important? And there's times that I look at those issues and it's like, none of them really standing out to me. Does someone else have? And, Ben might be like, hey, I got to get this one done because I got to get something going. Yeah. And we're like, great, bring it up. Let's talk about it. And Joey, you kind of alluded to that. We see when there's an issue that gets pulled up from a different department, it might get pushed up to ours. And when it does, I mean, that's one of the very first ones. There's no voting on it. Those are the first ones. Those are the first ones we talk about. And then at the very end, when time gets done, then we rate the meeting, which I'm going to be honest, when we first started these, Joey knows what I'm going to say here. We were learning. I'm going to just say that. We were still learning, what do these meetings, how do they function? How do they work? It takes time. And, coming from this process that it was kind of just blah, to where here's more of a structured, we would have to rate the meetings, and if it's what is it, 7 or below,
8 or below, yeah,
8 or below, then you ask, why was the meeting not that good? So I just remember that it was always like a 9 because nobody wanted to talk about it, even though there's times that it would be like a 5.
Yeah.
And to our discredit, we weren't being honest with each other to try and make that meeting better. But at the same time, I don't think the right people were in the room that helped make that meeting better. Right. I think we're all a little fearful of getting talked to afterwards. Now, if someone had less than an 8 on in our meeting, there'd be a genuine discussion of, hey, what happened? Like, what did you get offended somehow or something like that? I'm not fearful of putting less than an 8 on there if I truly felt like that. Haven't felt like that for a long, long time. Yeah. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. So got to be honest with it, and you got to be open with each other about, well, why was that meeting really that good, or did it kind of suck? Yeah. And if it did, then why? Like, let's open that up, and whoever's leading that meeting hopefully is pretty open to that and okay with having that kind of conversation and being able to do that and get that out of the people in the meeting that they're not having that.
Well, you should be. I mean, whoever's leading the meeting, that is your responsibility to follow up with those people if they don't rate it a 10. Yeah. That's why it's called a level 10, because you should never leave that meeting feeling less than satisfied. Yeah. And a 10 is satisfaction with the meeting. You got your answers that you needed. You felt there was good energy. If there's anything less than that, then that's the responsibility of whoever ran that meeting to go and ask, hey, tell me why you didn't get out what you needed to. Well, you know what? My topics never got discussed. And then you get to say, well, maybe you should be a better advocate for your topic. Yeah. And you can help those people along. It's not like an indictment on my character if somebody rates it an 8, but there's obviously something we need to adjust in order for that person to get the value out of that meeting that they need to. Otherwise, they're not going to come in with their full effort the next time. Yeah. And that's the most important thing at our company, is that those meetings are held, they're held consistently, and that people are getting value out of them. If they're not, then we got to fix something, because there is extreme value in it. Now, everybody's meeting is not going to be 90 minutes, and everybody's meeting is a little bit different, but you should be having it consistently, and you should be having value when you leave. Yeah. A lot of people, the thing that they struggle with the most is the IDS section, and they don't identify what the issue is. They go right to discussing it and solving it before they identify what the issue is. And we had an issue with that, or we had issues with that at the very first when we were starting this process, but you get better and better over time as you create more discipline and you learn to identify what's the real issue here.
Yeah, what's the root?
Yeah, because sometimes it's not at all what people thought it was.
That's funny that you brought that up because you're spot on. When we first had that, we would kind of gloss over it. Mm-hmm. And there would be some dominant voices in there that would say, well, this is the problem.
Yeah.
And, there would be times that, well, are you sure that's the problem?
Yeah.
And let's really identify that. I don't think that's the problem. I think here's the cause of the problem. And having that, and some people didn't want to have that. They just wanted to know and say,
right.
This is it. And right to your point, straight to, okay, well, that's the issue, so let's not waste our time. Let's discuss and get a solution.
Who's gonna take the to-dos on this one? Well, can we get curious about it real quick?
Yeah.
I need a little bit more information.
Well, and also, discussing it as a whole and coming up with a solution together is going to be way better than one person. So I this would be a comment to whoever's running the meeting, the leader there. I would just tell you, sometimes you think that, okay, if, you're the senior person there or whatever it is, you have to make sure that everything keeps going and that you provide a solution and you do this and, you're making sure that it's being solved or identified and discussed and stuff like that. You're not the one that has to put that out there. What your responsibility is, you're like a mediator. You're making sure that everybody's participating there and you're getting everybody to speak. If you're not having a person speak, you need to work with that person and get them to give their opinion because everybody's opinion matters at that table when you're having that meeting. And so that's the real responsibility of whoever's running that meeting is to make sure that everybody's participating. It's not your responsibility to solve every issue.
No.
And I think there's a common misconception on that because you might get in a group and you think that, oh, well, okay, I'm the most senior person here. This is my meeting. I need to make sure that here's the solution, guys. And you know what? You don't. And sometimes it's okay to have awkward silence.
Yeah, it is.
And let them just think for a minute.
Stew on it for a minute. And I think that goes back to what's the difference between a manager and a leader.
Yep.
A manager of a meeting would say, okay, well, we haven't gotten to this yet. We need to get to this yet, and just pushed for time. A leader would let the discussion build.
Yep.
And let the best solution come out of that meeting. Even if you only solve one thing, if it was the most important thing that needed to be solved, then you have been successful in that meeting. And there has been meetings that Brandon and I have been involved in where it is like one or two get solved.
And we're not talking about a 90-minute meeting. This is like an all-day meeting where we've only solved like 2 issues.
4 freaking hours.
Yeah. And we've been passionate, right? I mean, I remember I'm going back to one I won't tell you what the topic we were talking about, but Joey and I were very passionate. I wouldn't say we were opposed, but we had different perspectives on how it should happen. And we talked about that issue for a long time, for a few hours.
Seriously.
And we didn't get to many other issues. And this was one of our all-day meetings.
Yeah.
And but we came to a resolution on it to where we both felt comfortable. And then even afterwards, I remember you and I were driving and we talked about it and we felt good about it.
Yeah.
Like we came out there as we felt like we came together and got the best solution for that.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to only have one issue resolved during that time frame. And I would also put another key thing that I think some people get mistaken on. If you don't resolve an issue or get to an issue, it stays on the list for next week.
You don't get to just kill the list.
I heard of one group where someone was telling me that the whoever was leading the meeting is like, well, we didn't get to that one, just clears them all off. Well, we didn't get to that, and clears them. Like, what are you doing? You don't do that. You leave them on there because if they're on that list, they're on there for a reason.
They're important.
You need to get to it.
Yep.
Now, there's sometimes that we have in ours of, whoever put that on there might say, hey, take that off because I just need to talk to so-and-so. and I'll just talk to them offline.
But that's up to the person that put it
on there.
Yeah.
They decide that it comes off. It's not just someone randomly saying, well, we didn't get to it, so take that one off.
Right.
Keep it on there, because that means that it's important enough to get on that list. It needs to be resolved. It needs to be discussed.
Yeah.
So
the thing that kind of struck me at the very first, because Mountainland is not a regimented company. We're not like strict, follow the yellow brick road constantly. The structure of the meeting was off-putting at first, because I don't know, I guess I just kick against structure. But what I didn't realize is that it was the structure that I was missing. And the structure is what you kind of fall back on to make sure that you're getting some value out of the meeting. The lack of structure is what we hated the first iteration of meetings. It's like, well, we're here. What does everybody want to talk about today? There was never a consensus of the group as to what needed to be discussed. It was just a top-down, hey, these are the 5 issues we're going to discuss today. There was never a poll. There was never, hey, there's a list of to-dos. Let's go over them, make sure that they got it taken care of. So once you're introduced to that structure, at first it can feel like, man, this is too constrictive. But once you get into it and you're like, you know what? There's safety in this because there are to-dos and we are documenting them. Now I don't have to worry about that person being held accountable, because they will hold themselves accountable when their name is on a list. They will do it.
Yep.
And if they won't, we have the list so that we can help them be held accountable.
Yep.
There are reasons why the steps in that meeting are there. And if you really will just jump in and do it the regimented way, I'm telling you, it will be much better. You'll get so much more value out of it. And I say that as a person who hates that type of thing.
So when we first started, I almost felt like it was a gimmick.
Yeah, for sure.
And I don't mean this in a bad way. So that's not where this is coming from. But Brent Anderson at the time, Brent Anderson was always introducing something new. Mm-hmm. And, looking back on it, I was naive. I didn't understand what he was trying to do. He knew there was an issue. Mm-hmm. And he was always trying to find a way to solve that.
Right.
And so we got introduced to a lot of different things of how to do meetings and this, that, and the other, right? And a lot of them flamed out.
Yeah.
And so when we first started,
so it's almost like a flavor of the week type of thing.
And I felt like this was okay. Great, this is going to happen for 3 more months, and then we're going to just abandon this.
Yeah.
And so when I first started, I wasn't 100% invested in this, and I just kind of was going through the motions. But just being there, being a part of it, being in that environment, like, whoa, wait a minute, there's something different here. And it took a little bit. It took a few months for me, but after a moment, it was, I'm all on board with this, and I'm 100% behind this. Yeah. And today I am. I honestly don't. I can't look at our company and think how we would have achieved the success that we've achieved over the past few years if we didn't have structure like this.
It would not have been possible.
And a lot of people, just so everybody who's listening to this, the few people you are out there, thank you.
Both of you.
Thank you. Yep.
Both of you.
We appreciate you.
Mom, thanks for listening to this. It doesn't apply to you, but
there's a fine line between having too much structure and not enough structure.
There is.
And it's for us, I will tell you that that's one of the things that I worry about is I don't want to be too corporate, but we have to be corporate. Don't want to have too much structure, but we have to have structure to be able to continue to grow. So how do you keep this growing, this big company, having some structure, but you still have that family mom and pop shop kind of a feel
where you can make fast decisions.
Exactly. Yep. And I can communicate with leadership. I can get answers to my questions, things of that nature. And really, I think level 10s help us achieve that, that balance.
Absolutely.
Of where, we do have that structure there. It's kind of a regiment. Here's a format that we want you to follow, but we'll let you, okay, you're having it every week. Well, you don't have to have it for 90 minutes. You can have it for 30 minutes. Things of that. Scorecards are going to look different for your group than maybe what we see for
rocks are going to look different.
Exactly. Oh, I forgot about that. That's also the thing too. We go over the rocks right at the beginning too. But anyways, so it's a good thing. I think this is a healthy mix for our company of where we're at today.
Yeah, I agree.
And going forward, I think for the future, I think this is a sustainable plan that will be able to grow with us. So
I think and this maybe just to conclude, the biggest reason why I think it was successful is because Quentin, our coach through this entire thing, our implementer, he took the time to look around the room when we were first implementing this, and he asked us, is this the system you all want to adopt, and are you all going to buy in? And we had to go around the room and say yes or no. And we all said yes. And those of us who had a resounding yes, because we knew we could see the need for this, oddly, are the ones who are still around. You know? And those who didn't want to either took a different position or they are no longer here. They didn't want to do it, you know?
Yeah.
Not all of them, but some of them.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot to be said for buying in. And those who are buying in, stick around, you know, in one capacity or another. So, and those who don't, that's okay.
It's fine. There's other spots out there.
Yep.
That, you know, you fit better into.
Yep.
It's just the culture.
Yep. 100%.
Some people fit our culture better than others. And for those that don't fit our culture, there's cultures out there at companies that you'll fit into.
Like a glove.
Yep. And
so go find it.
We want you to find those and be happy.
Yeah.
So
awesome. Okay. Thanks, Brandon.
Yeah. Thank you.
And thanks, everybody, for spending a little bit of windshield time with us. We'll see you on down the road. Thanks.
Have a good one, everyone.
See you guys.